Yeah, I'll be right there. I gotta blow up Earth. Oh my gosh. This is Craftopia, an anime survival RPG, semi-open world, automated farming. Yeah, okay, you get the point. But this game offers a lot, and I wanted to experience it over the course of 100 days. But let's not waste any more time. Grab your cat, grab a snack, and enjoy the show. Don't forget to subscribe! Day 1, I loaded into Beginner Island, and there was a bunch of people standing in front of me telling me how to play the game. But as I've played this game before, I didn't really need this information. I just figured I'd show you guys. After displaying what they needed to say, I went ahead and started punching some rocks and gathering some wood from trees because I of course needed to get started on some tools. And just like any other survival game, an axe will give you more wood and a pickaxe will give you more stone. Yeah! Mono, leave me alone, hey! After securing my first kill on this measly cow, I noticed that I had a skill point available, so I went into my skill trees and leveled up my heal ability, which I can just drag into my hotbar, and at any time I can spend mana to heal myself. While I was there, I noticed that there was a bunch of missions I completed, so I claimed those, then went ahead and crafted a workbench so I can start crafting some better items. I was scouting for a place to set up my little station for now, and I noticed there was a dungeon next to me, but I got my workbench placed down, which is basically the heart of all crafting things in this game, and I'll explain all of that as we get further along in this video. Anyways, I went on a crafting frenzy and I crafted a bow, a wooden sword, and also a glider because this game is very similar to Breath of the Wild in a lot of ways. I'll find you, Zelda! This game's tools work in a tier system where you need a tier 2 pickaxe to get iron and so on and so forth. I'll explain that as we go on. The last thing I did on day 1 was got a campfire placed and started cooking some food, as it's one of the most important things in this game, just like in Breath of the Wild. Day 2, I unlocked and traveled to a new island because I wasn't gonna stay at Beginner Island forever. Anyways, this one called my name, so I got started. I placed down my workbench, then started crafting some building materials. I went on a little frenzy, placing down foundations, ramps, walls, everything that I could craft up, and I gotta say that building in this game is extremely effortless. They make it simple and straight to the point, and it's some of the best I've seen in survival games. So while I finish up my base, let me explain the island system to you. There's an island terminal where you can unlock separate islands and travel to them. Anyways, I got a market crafted and placed down. Following that was an evolution totem. I'll explain all of these crafting stations later on, but like Conan, there's a lot. A few that I do need to touch on now is the furnace where you can smelt ore, obviously, and then the blacksmith where you can craft weapons, armors, and accessories. Also, every night at midnight, these werewolves came to torment me, and at the beginning of this playthrough, it was kind of scary because I was naked and had a crappy bow. Day 3, I continued on setting up my base by crafting a hatter, a red beret, so I had head protection, some armor for my body, and then a chest because I was overflowing. Later on in the day, I found my very first dungeon and started running through it with my crappy copper sword. Dungeons are set up of 2 rooms, then a boss, so once you kill all enemies in the first, a door will open, leads to another enemy, you kill this guy, another door will open, then you fight the boss. It's pretty straightforward if you ask me. Dungeons are the best way to get loot in this game, and luckily there's no shortage of them, so I did happen to find a different sword along the way that was a lot better than my little copper thing. It's time for the boss! For my first one, I was extremely cautious because I was very underleveled, so I just used a bow. It was just poke damage here and there, hiding from the beams, and rinse and repeat. But since my name is Syzen, of course I got impatient and charged the man with the sword and was able to take my first victory. At the end of each dungeon, there's a barricade that gives you a slate of growth, which I'll touch on shortly, and then there's also 5 chests that can drop food, weapons, and other goodies. After finishing the dungeon, I crafted my very own wheat farm, and I called it a day. Day 5, I headed towards the desert part of my island and started exploring a little bit. I also found this 2-handed sword in that first dungeon I ran, so I decided to test it out on this guy. I'm not a huge fan of 2-handed swords in this game because they're really slow. Yes, the damage output is high, and it was the best I had at the moment, but it would change very soon. Each island has their own vendors, but the one I look out for is the merchant because you can find some pretty rare stuff in their inventory, but I was broke as you could see. The next day, I hit up another dungeon in the snow biome and started running my way through it. While I'm fighting these little peasants, I'd figured I'd show you, if you didn't notice yet, that at the top left of my screen there is a day counter if you want to keep up. After finally unlocking the dual-wielding weapon skill, I ditched that big, long, 2-handed sword so I could use these quick attacks now. I'd say the best DPS you can get in this game is from dual-wielding axes with really good enchantments, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. That stuff comes with a lot of time and grinding. Hey man, I'm trying to record a video. Can you land? This next boss is a weird one. She has 3 abilities, with one of them not making sense to me. Obviously, this first one, she just deals damage, nothing else. Her second one, she powers up an attack and shoots a ball of poison at you, which deals damage over time. And then the last one, which I don't understand, she heals you. So, world's kindest boss? I think so. Anyways, being as low leveled as I was and having no buff skills, I just had to rely on raw power, and that's why these boss fights were taking me so long. After staying patient and swinging these swords to my heart's content, I finally took the boss down. I got my slate of growth and a bunch of loot. On my way home, I noticed a supply pod falling from the sky, which I would get after doing some chores. I gathered all of the necessary things to be able to progress my age of evolution, which unlocks new blueprints for you. That's all it does. After doing so, I sold all of the loot I didn't want from the dungeon at the market, and then I finally went to go get this supply pod. These things offer modern materials and some pretty damn good food. Day 8, I crafted a generator, got it placed down, and started running on it to create batteries, but I noticed it was way too slow, so I would need some hamsters at some point. Wells generate buckets of water over time, and they were very important in my playthrough. You'll see why. The next skill I unlocked was called Ariel, which allowed you to do a dash mid-air at the cost of 5% of your food. I decided to start working on my very first big project, which was an automated bioethanol farm. Bioethanol was used in a lot of things, unlocking new islands, crafting industrial items, but I needed a lot of it and I knew that, so I got started. This game is huge on auto farming. It's awesome because you don't have to do the farming yourself, but there is one drawback. Whatever island your farm is on, it will only produce if you're there. Day 9 was a big one for me. I unlocked my favorite ability, which was an endgame one called Freezing Ray. It took buckets of water to cast, which was the hard part, but we'll talk more about it later. Next, I crafted a fishing rod and started going fishing. It's not too important late game, but early game, fish fillets offer pretty good food. So after slicing up some fishies, I gathered the final materials I would need to progress my age once again. I figured I would touch on this now. This game has a Pokemon feature where if you damage a creature enough, you can throw a prism at them, catch them, and then use them for yourself. It's not as simple as throwing it into a generator and getting infinite batteries, because you do need to find a way to keep that cow alive. There's 3 different biomes in this game that deal damage over time if you don't have the proper resistance, that being heat resistance, cold resistance, or poison resistance. Oh look, another dungeon. This game is a lot different than Ark, for example, in the sense that there is no final boss, but there is a lot to this game, and I can't complete it all in 100 days, but what I did do is set a goal for myself to kill the hardest boss by day 100. Also, as you can see, the freezing ray is extremely overpowered and no boss stands a chance against me now. You see, I say that, but then when I got out of this dungeon, I got jumped by an open world dragon and almost died in one shot, but luckily I was able to heal in time. Run! Run! Day 10, I went to go check on my batteries and noticed that my cow died, meaning I'd have to come up with a way to keep it alive. I also crafted a really high defense set of armor, which looked good, and then I started working on my auto farm yet again. I'm gonna tell you how this works. So, my crop plots, they create wheat, which then get cut automatically. They get absorbed into the auto cooker, turned into wheat flour, then absorbed from that cooker into a chest, which goes from the chest into the aging facility, which then turns into bioethanol automatically. It's a lot to explain, and if you don't know this game, it seems a little bit confusing, but I promise it's straightforward. Day 11, I completed the auto farm by adding a couple of finishing touches like a sprinkler and a reaping machine, and now I'll show you how it works. The sprinkler makes the wheat grow. The reaping machine cuts it, which then gets absorbed into the auto cooker. It cooks the flour like you're seeing on your screen. It then absorbs into this chest over here automatically. Finally, the wheat flour gets sent to the aging facility and turned into bioethanol. And for the rest of the day, all I did was farm iron. Day 12, I used a lot of my materials to unlock quite a few islands so I could go explore. I headed to the island of cherry blossoms, and I gotta say that the change of scenery was nice. The first thing I did was disturb the peace by taking out all the goblin camps, and then I headed to a dungeon. I wish I would have noted where this one was, because the boss at the end drops executioner scales, which are used to craft my favorite armor set. Shred with freezing ray, dodge some crazy axes, hit him with my swords, and then snipe him in the head with my bow. Call it a day. There's a chance that he drops the weapons that he was using called the executioner axe, and I got lucky and got it first try. It has really good damage and decent enchantments that I would explain a little bit later, but after completing it, I upgraded freezing ray, got my slate of growth, and of course grabbed all my looty booty tooty. Day 14, I saw a nearby supply pod, so I headed to it to get those sweet materials, and then I got side-pieced by this damn tree-cutting machine. Hey, yo, what is that? When the sun rose, I unlocked Runic Barrage, which is another magic skill I wanted to test out, and turns out it wasn't too good. I'll just use my swords instead! While being in higher-level areas was really tough for me fighting-wise, it offered me a lot more experience, so I was leveling up quicker. Day 15, I upgraded the meditation skill, which offers me passive mana recovery. I got some more necessary crafting benches placed and then headed to the island of cherry blossoms to try and find some hardwood. I was unsuccessful, but I caught this green Pokemon. Day 16, after further searching, I finally found the tree that offers hardwood. But Bella Fleur didn't like that, so I had to kill her before I could cut down this sacred tree. Yes, freeze! Hey, whoa! Yo, who the f— After showing Mama who was daddy— Hey, what you got? Yo, are you farting? Man, die! Just go down! Dude, he's so fast! Honestly, I thought I had this monkey under control until he one-tapped me and it resulted in my very first death. But I got what I needed, so I headed home and started working on my second auto farm. This, what you're seeing, is an auto breeder. Placing a cooking pot underneath automatically kills whatever breeds into the pot. And now for the green guy explanation. Whenever these die, they heal everything within a certain radius. So if you can catch my drift, if I place a bunch of generators in front of this cooking pot, throw some animals on it, then allow the little green guys to die and heal everything, I have infinite batteries without worrying about my stuff dying. Day 17, and here is the display. But as like any other auto farm, these batteries need somewhere to go, so placing a chest with an absorber completes the whole build. Now let's just throw up some walls to give it a finished look, and I will have batteries for life. Now that I have infinite batteries and bioethanol, I was able to progress my age once again. In doing that, the blacksmith now had a plethora of armors and weapons that I could craft. And me being a dum-dum saw flower staff thinking it was an actual staff, so I equipped it wondering where the magic was coming from, and it was a sword. Day 18, I figured I should place a lot more wells down because water is my main source of damage in this game, and I keep running out of water buckets. But before doing that, I wanted to make a nice pretty house for myself separate from my workshop that I could call home. This is the reason I needed the hardwood, so I could have that nice Japanese look. I will go to whatever lengths I need to get those cosmetics. With that, I placed the wells under my house, got an altar of transportation in the middle of it, and I was done for now. Craftopia has multiple different dungeons, with this one being the abandoned mine. So as you can see, there's a lot of resources as far as nodes go. I figured I would need all of these at some point, so I just took everything that I saw. After gathering my desired resources, I headed into the final part of this place. I made quick work of this tyrant snake, got my slate of growth, my loot, and then headed out. Day 20, I unlocked another island, and of course it was the island of hell, which is one of the toughest places you can teleport to. With heat you cannot resist, oversized chickens that will murder you in a few shots, lava fountains that want to take your life, and a bunch of other stuff. To progress my age further, I needed 3 materials from here, one of them being hellfire wood, the other being heated minerals, and then finally the ghost peppers. Well, they're like fire peppers, whatever. But I got sniped and it ended my whole experience early, so it was time to go home. Day 21, I came to the realization that my experience was actually hurting me. I was way too underleveled for being where I was at this point in the game, so I decided to build a ramp all the way up to Anubis in the sky so I could use my slate of growths. Giving him 4 of them will either allow you to increase your maximum health, mana, or stamina permanently, and it gives you a lot. This encourages players to run as many dungeons as possible, which I haven't done just yet. This made me want to run more, so I headed to another dungeon of island, used my newfound abilities to take out some enemies, and then once I got to the final boss, I realized that this mono guy has the chance of dropping a really good headpiece for people that like using magic, like myself. And me being the luckiest player alive, got it first try. I started day 22 off by running another dungeon, which would give me the last slate of growth I needed to upgrade my stats once again. At this point, I was able to speedrun pretty much all low-level dungeons because I was an absolute glass cannon. So for those of you who are interested in this build, I'll share the whole thing in depth at the end in case you want to use it yourselves. What the hell is this thing? Let's go fishing. What? What the hell is that? Day 23, I completed an easy escape trial dungeon, got my rewards, and then I had an idea. You can capture literally anything that's living in this game, so I damaged this merchant, caught him, and then I brought him home.
Hello, motherfucker.
The next thing on my list was crafting 5 tree saws so I could get this mission done that was in the top right of my screen forever. But the thing is I was on an island surrounded by water, so this was a terrible idea. Towards the end of the day, I placed down some fireworks and had my own fireworks show. Day 24, I crafted a machine factory, which was gonna give me a huge quality of life upgrade. You can craft all sorts of vehicles in this station. For the sake of missions, I crafted a hoverboard and a motorcycle, but the one I wanted the most was the helicopter, because now without using stamina, I could go anywhere I wanted to and a lot faster. Anubis, make me stronger! Now that I had aerial freedom, I also went inside of the volcano because there's 3 golden chests. But unfortunately, anything I find on my base island is gonna be terrible because it's low leveled. Day 25 was like a reality day almost. I unlocked a new island, so I headed there, went to the first dungeon I saw, and just blew through it. My head was way too big at this point for my own good. I thought that I pretty much couldn't lose. After leveling up, I unlocked the Berserk skill, which allows me to go into an absolute fit of rage, buffing my attack damage. So I got all cocky, headed towards this griffin with my Berserk skill active, did next to nothing for damage, and this. After seeing what just happened, I knew there was no chance I could beat it, so I left and ran another dungeon. Freeze blast the boss, hit him with the sword a couple of times. It's the same old story. For some reason, day 26, the only footage I have is me flying on a helicopter, so enjoy. In this game, there are crop plots and wheat farms. I placed down crop plots so I could now grow whatever veggies I wanted, and then I headed to a new island. At this point in the game, you can pretty much do whatever you want. My choice was just unlocking new islands and then running the dungeons on those islands because I was trying to find a staff. Crafting a good staff early in the game is extremely hard because you don't have good enchantments yet. DPS in this game is all about stacks, buffs, enchantments, all of it. Everything plays its own part. So me getting a staff right now, I'd be able to use the right click on it, which gives me an increase of magic attack, and that would bring my build over the top. Lucky for me, after I killed this executioner guy, got my rewards, leveled up my dual wield skill to max, I got a staff, and a really, really good one. Well, for now. The enchantments on it were pretty dookie, but it's fine. It was high magic attack. Day 29, I ran another dungeon with my new staff, and I gotta say, I felt like a goddamn fairy! I promise one day a dungeon boss will be hard for me. I swear. Let me quickly explain refining weapons. So, when you get multiples of weapons, you can throw them in a refinery with a refining stone and give it increased attack. Okay, but like, yeah, that's it. Day 30 was a heavy grinding dungeon day. I went to a new island, I ran some dungeons, killed some executioners, but at the end of the day, that's when I found a cool dungeon. When you find these Egyptian prehistoric type dungeons, you know you're in luck because it's always gonna be the Griffin boss. Day 31, while still in the dungeon, I kept pressing forward, getting closer to the end. After murdering this stone golem, I was finally able to face the Griffin. And you may be asking yourselves, what's so special about this boss? Well, they drop Griffin feathers, which can be used for certain pieces of armor, whatever. The main thing you're going for, though, is the wings. So instead of a glider, you can use wings if you were able to craft it with the Griffin feathers, and they are so much better because you can actually fly. Day 32, I headed to the island of hell once again because I wanted revenge. I threw out my helicopter forgetting that they can't be used here, and that happened. In reality, I came back here so I could progress my age because at this point I was stuck. I was being held back by my blueprints, so I was looking for all the materials I would need. The hard thing about Hell Island, though, is that there's a purposeful overspawnage of enemies trying to make it as hard as possible. Being in this biome is like the ultimate game of chess. You have to know when you can heal, when you can do certain things. You have to be on top of it, and I just went into a dungeon so I could breathe for a second. But little did I know that in here, those fountains of lava can also come after you. So as long as you're in Hell Island, there's no chance for you to take a break. Okay, so while I'm actually pooping on this boss, let me tell you something about food, because you may be wondering how my health is shifting so much, how it's getting higher. The way food works is it gives you a temporary either 30, 60, or 180 second buff towards health, stamina, mana. Basically, food is really important. Day 34 was the same as day 33. I was still in Hell Island, ran another dungeon, killed a blue mono boss, and then headed home. Day 35 had an unfortunate realization that to progress my next age would take me over half of this playthrough because of one item. Saltpeter, which to craft saltpeter, you needed feces or poop, if you will. And to get poop in this game, you can't just force it. You have to, it it's random. It can be sped up with a giraffe though. Giraffes poop more than any other monster in this game. So I went home, made a pet management machine. I activated my giraffe with the pet management machine, meaning that I can now ride it because it'll have a saddle. I'll leave it out around my base, and I just gotta hope that this thing poops as much as I need. Day 36, I made myself an enchanted iron amulet. Hold on. I need to tell you how enchantments work in this game because they're actually really confusing. Let's say you have an iron sword. To make it, it costs 1 leather and 1 iron. Okay, good. So you're following. Now for the next part. If you make that sword out of normal leather and normal iron, you have a normal iron sword. But let's say you got that iron and you got that leather from a stone golem. The stone golem drops stone golem iron. Now let's say that piece of leather that you have offers +5 defense, and that piece of stone golem iron offers +5 attack. We use both of those enchanted resources to craft an iron sword with the best possible chance of us getting both enchantments from both resources. But of course that's RNG, it's all by chance. If I use 4 pieces of enchanted resources to craft 1 piece of gear, it's a very low chance that I'll get all 4 that I want on that 1 piece of gear. If you guys find yourself loving this game and want a tutorial, I can definitely do that in the future. As you can see, when I used the golem's iron to craft both the ring and the necklace, it gave me +3 defense, +5 attack, and -2 defense. So I have successfully enchanted a piece of gear, and it changed the name from Iron Ring to Golem's Lava's Ring. Anyways, let's continue. After that, I crafted a prism gacha, which is like a gumball machine. Throughout the world, in chests and boss fights and stuff, you can find gacha coins, throw them into this thing, and it'll give you a random piece of gear. It's pretty cool. I then called it a day after depleting my resources to unlock 3 more islands. Day 37, I had to go back to my machine factory and craft another helicopter because, as you saw, mine exploded in hell. Afterwards, I headed to the island of Poison that I just unlocked in hopes of finding some good enchanted resources. Watching all of this footage back, I'm just now realizing how lucky I got with finding these executioner bosses, because these dropped those executioner scales I was talking to you guys about. So I was one step closer to crafting that beautiful executioner's armor. When I exited the dungeon, I saw the open world Hydra boss, which dropped some really rare resources, so I decided to buff myself up and try to take him out. But unlike the other bosses, he's not a complete idiot and actually has attacks that target you. So the same old buff freeze ray thing was not gonna work on this guy. I actually had to focus on dodging his attacks and then attack whenever I got a second. After barely escaping his crazy super big shockwave that'll one-shot you, I was one step closer to victory. But all of my buffs at this point had worn off, so my damage was horrible compared to what I was doing at the beginning of this fight. We just gotta dodge one more attack and then he's gonna die. All right, freeze blast effect. Oh, he's getting close. Come on. Oh, I'm unbeatable. Day 38 was a short one. I headed into the abandoned mine to take down the snake boss, got my rewards, and then I headed home to start expanding. The reason for it was because on day 39, I made an entire storage room. My resources and weapons and armor was all over the place and just whack, so I wanted to make a dedicated storage room, and I also added a little area for my giraffe to poop. According to my calculations, if I throw a giraffe here, he poops, it gets sucked in. Anyways, day 40, I finished up the storage room and started placing all of the resources in dedicated areas. That way I would never lose anything again. I then used the rest of this day to make the front of my base prettier because as it sits, it looks horrid and I was tired of looking at it. Day 41, I added these sliding doors and they were beautiful. Afterwards, I finished boxing in my entire base. That way I didn't have to look at the sky anymore. I wanted the base to look complete, but I ran out of materials, so it was on to the next thing. The next thing being going up to Anubis in the sky so I could use my slate of growths to increase my stamina. Feeling replenished and strong and on top of the world, I headed back over to the volcano area on my island to go fight this dragon because he bullied me at the beginning. So I got buffed up on Wheaties, headed over to him, and started the fight. So the first time I ever played this game, I never captured a dragon because I didn't know if you could. So that popped into my mind. I almost killed it, but didn't because I don't know if these things respawn. So I headed home, let it live because maybe I could capture it later on. Day 43, I began my journey to get unlimited money, so I placed down these livestock farms, and when you throw a jack-o'-lantern on top, they pump up and down and poop out little mini jack-o'-lanterns, get sucked into the market, and sell for a decent amount of gold. So I headed over to the island of Fallen Leaves to get 2 jack-o'-lanterns, headed home, put them on those livestock farms, and here's the display. So now that I have infinite money, I figured I would show you guys a trick. These merchants, if you capture them and bring them home, they can have stuff in their inventories for you to buy. It's one of the best sources of steel, iron, and they drop a lot of good food, Sometimes. But the trick is, long as you have monster prisms, you can keep capturing them and throwing them out to refresh their inventory. Day 45 was a huge wood farm for me. All I did all day was chop down trees, and it was tedious, but it needed to be done because I needed charcoal for gunpowder. I needed 50 total gunpowder to progress to the next age, and getting there would take forever, but at least this gave me something to do. Day 46, I got to thinking. There was an old poop farm that I used to do back in the day where I would capture 2 crocodiles, breed them infinitely, and once my island reaches the max cap for crocodiles, I have a higher chance of getting them to poop when going around a conveyor belt, and I can just absorb it into a chest. It used to work, but I didn't know if it would this time. So on day 47, after catching the 2 crocodiles I would need for breeding, I started building the entire conveyor belt system. And before you open up your game and start following along with this, don't do it because it didn't work, but I have to show this. Like you know by now, most systems will consist of a breeder at the top with 2 of the green monos to heal the creature's breeding or farming, but I let this whole thing run into day 48 and into day 49 later on, and I never saw a single piece of poop, so it in fact does not work. I ended up placing down a chest with an absorber just in case there was a piece in there, but for future reference, I will only use the giraffe farm because the giraffe poops a lot. The one benefit of this whole entire system was that crocodiles drop some of the best iron in the game, that being dangerous iron ore, and it offers some really good enchantments. After completing the useless build, I traveled to my first level 6 island, which made a huge difference in difficulty. I also needed 200 diamond ore to progress my current age, so anytime I saw diamond, I also got that. Day 49, I headed to a dungeon on this level 6 island to see how much harder it was really going to be for me. And the fact that I couldn't just slice and dice these enemies anymore, these basic enemies, let me know that I was in for a treat. High risk, high reward. These normal silver chests were actually dropping really good loot. But on to the boss that would change everything. This guy has never-ending attacks. He's relentless. He's hard to kill. It's just the whole package is bullcrap. That was my best attack. That was my best attack, and it did nothing. I'm screwed. I'm screwed. But he teleports? Every second that this fight went on, just let me know that I wasn't gonna beat it anytime soon. I was dealing no damage with any of my attacks, but I figured I would use this time to learn the boss. Man, this guy is basket case. Oh, it's just so convenient that every time I go to... And then he started doing this once he got angry. What on earth, you psychopath? Oh my gosh, what? How am I supposed to dodge that? Who can play this game? Yes, you fell for my trap. This fight went into day 50 with me almost securing the victory, but ultimately it ended in my demise. No, I didn't even get a warning he was gonna do that attack. Yeah, I'm done. I'll come back. I'll come back. I'll come back. On my way off this island, I noticed there was this big hole in the side of this cliff, so I decided to break it, and there was a dungeon behind, so let's run it. I wish I loved two-handed swords because I found this hidden chest behind me, and it held a legendary two-handed fire sword. Really gnarly stats, but I'm never gonna use it. Well, that's until I completely reset all of my skills and changed my build just to revolve around this sword. Yeah, because I wanted to try it, you know. I was getting a little bit tired of the magic, and I wanted to see what would happen if I used it. So these pull the pin dungeons are very straightforward. You hit the pins that you want to pull with your bow and arrow. Don't let the diamonds drop into the lava. You collect the diamonds, the door opens. Some of them are harder than others and make you think quite a bit. I scratched my head on this one for a while, but ultimately, it's just the same thing, just a little bit harder. After pulling the last pin and collecting all of the gems, the final door opened and I was greeted by loot. There's no boss in these dungeons, so pretty easy. Day 51 began my journey to unlock the island of Bridge. It's one of the rarest islands to come across when you're unlocking them, and it holds the Fafnir boss. This was probably the quickest way you could burn through your hard-earned resources, which I did quite often, and still no island of Bridge. But day 52 was a big event for me. I finally had enough gunpowder and all other resources to progress my age, which took me 51 days. 10 mil gold down the drain, all these hard-earned resources, bye-bye. After doing so, pretty much every blueprint in the game was available at my disposal. I could craft whatever I wanted if I had the resources. And also, I tested that two-handed sword off camera, and it was awful, so I ended up just using my staff again. I upgraded it to +3 because I had duplicates. I also made this skilled furnace, which can smelt any ore in the entire game, except the early access ones. But there was one reason for all of this. I wanted to craft the skilled machine factory, and there was one specific item in this crafting bench that I wanted to make. The only way you can capture a dragon in this game is with chain restraint bullets, and it's difficult to make, very expensive, and that doesn't mean it's easy to get the dragon once you have these either. It's also a task in itself. But before I could craft the bullets, I had to make bulletin springs, which are expensive by themselves. Day 53, after using every last resource towards these restraint bullets that I could, I was only able to craft a total of 2. I ended up heading over to a higher leveled poison island while my materials were smelting in the furnace so I could run some dungeons for better gear. Low-key, I was actually looking for the executioner boss that I fought like, 5 times at the beginning of this game. For some reason, I couldn't find where his dungeon was, so I was just running dungeons until I found him, I guess. It's also never a bad idea to take down a Hydra here and there because they drop their Hydra scales, which can craft really good weapons or armor. I'll be taking that, thank you. Day 55, there was nothing left here for me anymore, so I headed home to deposit some gacha coins. Nothing useful yet. I mean, I found this iron whetstone, but it wasn't any better than my accessories at the moment. In an attempt to get stronger, I noticed that I had 8 slate of growths. I'd been saving them for a while and forgot, so I went to Anubis to increase my stats yet again. Day 56, I got extremely lucky. I used 3 of my best enchanted materials to craft this iron talisman and got all 3 enchantments on it. The use for it is going in your offhand slot to increase your stats. I ended up crafting the last 2 chain restraint bullets that I needed, so I headed to the desert where the dragon, the high level dragon, likes to spawn, and it was time to try and capture him. Of course, we gotta fight this like a Pokemon battle and get his health really low before I can even think about capturing him. Luckily, that didn't take too long. I shredded through his health because I'm an absolute god at this point in the game. As far as monster capturing goes, this is one of my favorite. It's so epic. After attaching 4 chains and lowering his health, he's capturable. And yes, I got him. He was mine. I had a dragon! The unfortunate thing is on day 57, I threw my dragon out just to realize he was level 1, so I wasted my time going to get a high-leveled one. But it's fine. He shoots fireballs, he hits hard, and it's just straight up way cooler than riding a helicopter. For the first 10 levels, every creature I killed leveled up the dragon. And his health was already way higher than mine, so yeah, I was loving this thing. Okay, we were gonna have some fun. Day 59, I wanted to perform cannibalism, so I brought my dragon to go fight the other dragon that bullied me at the beginning that I lowered his health. Yeah, that guy, we were gonna kill him with my dragon, and then hopefully I could level up a lot with my dragon. I think that's the most I've ever said dragon in my entire life. You see, the thing is though, I got more than I asked for. This thing did a lot more damage to mine than I did to it, so I ended up running away, and then I came back with just myself because apparently I'm stronger than a dragon. Day 60, I enclosed the top of my base for a finished look, and then I progressed my age to the final level using the offering of knowledge I got from killing the Hydra. I also went back to the island of cherry blossoms to get hardwood because I needed that to craft the skilled blacksmith. The new and updated blacksmith offers a lot more blueprints for you to craft. Day 61, I started grinding for the materials to craft a new outfit for myself. I started out with old rags, and then I made 2 more workbenches so I could craft more efficiently. And then after going and capturing 2 sheep and breeding them, I was able to get the final bit of wool that I needed. When I got back home, I crafted the green wizard cloak for men, and unfortunately I got a terrible roll on it with nothing boosting my actual magic attack, but it was overall better for a magic build than my current armor. Later in the day, I headed to the island of residence where I found a decent leveled merchant, so I decided to capture him, and when I got home, he sold me a bunch of gacha coins. Whenever merchants have them available, they're in stacks of 30, which is a really good chance of you getting something decent from these capsules. Speaking of decent, I got 2 Gambentines, which are really high magic attack staffs. It's a legendary that deals 300 more damage than my current staff without any upgrades or refinery. Day 63, I set aside some time to unlock more islands, and that's when I unlocked this weird one that I haven't seen before. This was an island that was just one consecutive dungeon with endless bosses. This was part of a new update that I wasn't aware of. But say less, I'll kill them all! I got buffed up, equipped my new staff, and realized I was doing over triple the damage I was doing before. Look at those numbers! Keep in mind that these bosses are level 120 and I'm level 35. Well, first stage done, on to the next, I guess. The next part was 3 Cyclops that was going fairly smooth. I killed 2 of them super easy, but this last one ended up one-shotting me. To free up space on day 65, I tore down my alligator poop farm that didn't farm poop, and I just adjusted it and changed it to an iron ore farm. After doing so, I headed over to my first island of frost and waited for 8 minutes until the boss here spawned. That's when day 66 rolled around, I saw the Fenrir, buffed myself up, and went to go fight him. All of these open world bosses that I've been killing drop the best possible materials for armor and weapon crafting, so I figured I would come farm this guy. One of my favorite swords in the game is called the Rose Edge Sword, and you can only make it by killing this guy and getting his materials. But the fact that these open world bosses only spawn every 8 minutes, and he only drops a few hard talons at a time, I needed 100 of those hard talons to craft one sword. You get where I'm going. If I was to only focus on this Rose Edge Sword and getting 2 of them, I wouldn't be able to complete it in 100 days. But now you know my thought process during this fight, so I figured I would just finish this, but I wouldn't grind it. Day 67, I headed over to the island of Hell because it was finally time for me to try and take on Anubis. And you can only fight him after you've killed all 3 lava golems at the ends of these chains. And of course, after killing all 3, day 68 rolled around and I started flying up towards Anubis in the sky. He told me it was time to judge the weight of my sins, tried killing me one time, but after that, it was the easiest boss fight in existence. Upon killing him, I received the Indulgence of Anubis, which was a scroll and a statue of Anubis. What the Indulgence does is I can go to any open world boss spawn location, use the scroll, and it immediately spawns them where I don't have to wait the 8 minutes. After taking down Anubis, I headed to another griffin boss so I could get one step closer to crafting my wings. Day 69, I went back to my home island to do a couple of chores at home and also place down my newly found Anubis statue who danced for me. Later in the day, I headed back to that level 6 island where this boss killed me because I wanted to try again. I tweaked my build a little bit to squeeze out as much magic attack as possible, and this time around, it seems to have paid off. It's either that or my knowledge of the actual boss helped me a lot, but I did way better this time. As you can see, this fight drug out for 2 whole days, and I didn't come close to dying once. And with patience, skill, some dodging, and a final blow, oh, I did it! Haha! Yes, sir. Oh, what is that? That is sick looking! Oh! Looking back on this, I wish I would have grinded for a second one because having 2 of these would have made my build more versatile. I could have done melee attacks and also had high magic attack. But unfortunately, just equipping the one wasn't stronger than my current staff build. I started off day 71 by crafting a chemistry bench, or chemistry lab, whatever the hell you want to call it, because drugs! After that, I headed back to the boss rush dungeon to see if I could get any further than I did last time. I pretty much used this island to see if I was getting any stronger. If I wasn't getting further than I did the last time, that means I'm doing something wrong. I in fact obliterated the Cyclops because I learned that if I don't move too much, they stop moving. Every time I move, that's when they attack, so it made the fight really easy. By the time I got to this Hydra, I was so jacked up on Mountain Dew that it was just a clean sweep. I promise you guys that one day this freeze ray will stop working, but for now, I'm gonna keep using it. Don't fix what's not broken, am I right? The next boss was Bella Fleur, and she was actually pretty easy. As long as I avoided those spiky tentacles coming out of the ground, I was fine. Next up was the dragon who almost one-shot me, so I knew that this was probably as far as I could get at the moment. The funny thing is I could have probably killed him, but I ran out of water buckets out of all things, so I just equipped my melee weapon and tried having him kill me. Just do it! Thank you. Gosh. Day 73, after testing my strength and limits, I finally unlocked the Island of Bridge, but it wasn't a level 5 or higher, and at the time, I didn't know that it had to be, so I was going around searching for the 3 paladins you had to kill to summon Fafnir. But to no surprise, they never showed up, so after killing a few enemies, I headed home, and on day 75, I started the long and grueling process of creating 2 more auto bioethanol farms. It took a lot to unlock new islands, and I kept running out with just the 1 farm I had, so this was my best attempt at getting that Island of Bridge before this playthrough was over. Day 76, the build continued, and I ended up finishing both farms by midday, so now I would have triple the amount of bioethanol crafting at all times. So we need to take a quick pause here so I can tell you that for the next 4 days, I had to go AFK. The reason being is whenever I leave my island, my auto bioethanol farms stop working, and to progress and get further, I needed to fight Fafnir, meaning I needed to unlock Island of Bridge. So all in all, it sucks that I had to do this, but it was the only way. And day 80, it wasn't worth it. I unlocked 9 islands and didn't get a single Island of Bridge. Basically, what this means is as I unlock unlock more islands, they'll get higher in level. So if I keep unlocking islands and never see the one I want until the final row, that means that I'll be fighting a level 104 Fafnir, worst case scenario. Doesn't sound crazy, but it's no easy task for someone like me who never even reached max level by the end of this game. Day 81, I learned that there was something called a vigorous market, which I had no clue existed. You'd think a vigorous market would sell your items faster. No, it just gives you an extra 4 slots to sell stuff. That's it. It sucks. Anyways, in the meantime, while waiting on bioethanol, I went around searching for the executioner boss at every dungeon possible. I was just looking for him, no other boss. I needed 5 more of those executioner scales before I could craft some better armor. With that armor, I wanted to test a new build where I used a sword and shield with super high defense and HP. That way I could tank out any boss I wanted to. Day 82, the search for the executioner continued, but since it was RNG based, it wasn't going good. I found a bunch of snakes in this boss that looks like he belongs in Mario, but no executioner. Day 83, I made a water purification facility. I have no clue why, but I did. Maybe to purify water. After doing so, I went back to the island of poison I was at earlier in the game because I somewhat remember fighting the executioner here, and I'm glad I came back because I was right. Well, that should be the last skill I need. I've already grinded this 4 times. Day 84, I wasted a lot of precious materials to craft an enchanting table that I never used. I can see why they're good, but I just didn't touch it. And finally, what I was grinding for, that black dragon armor. Yes, give it to me. Oh, it looks so good. Next, I crafted the shield of Asclepius, which was my reasoning behind killing the Hydra so many times. So now I had my armor, my shield, and for the sword, I crafted this, I'm not gonna try to say that, but I crafted this sword. The main one I was going for was called Siegfried, but to get that I had to first kill Fafnir to get his materials, then fuse this sword into it, and I could craft it. Anyways, now that I was rocking a new build, I couldn't use my magic accessories anymore since I wasn't using magic, so I crafted new accessories that went along with my current build. And I bring you the one-shot build by Syzen. Well, at the time I didn't know it was a one-shot build, so I just ended up dying to these guys because I didn't know how to use my own class. Day 87 was the big day that I finally unlocked Island of Bridge. I was so hyped for this, so I headed straight there, and this is what I mean by one-shot build. Okay, how do you use this? 1 damage. Oh! Yeah, I was really excited about this new build, but as you can see, I just took down a paladin. The Island of Bridge has 3 in total at each corner of the map, and then once you kill all 3, you'll get a notification telling you that the Fafnir has spawned. But I was extremely sad when I used my one-shot sword ability and saw that I did next to nothing for damage on this guy. The cool part is I was tanking out all of these enemies' hits. They didn't hurt at all. Even the dragon hitting me did nothing, but that had nothing to do with it. The issue was my damage output. With no buffs and no skills, I was doing 200 to 300 damage per hit. And seeing as my one-shot attack did 32,116 damage to this guy, and he could probably take 15 of those, that means he has somewhere near 500,000 health. Basically, what I'm trying to say is it would take me hours to kill this guy, and I was bound to make a mistake by then. Ah, damn it. I don't remember this being part of it. I don't have time to switch to my bow. I don't want to just get yeeted off this map. Oh, no, back. Okay, I was able to switch to the bow. Let's see if this can knock him down. Come on. Oh, it's so hard to hit it. Damn it, stop hitting me from behind, you stupid animals. Oh. Well, wasn't expecting that. Yeah. All right. That was hard. Day 91, 4 days later. I forgot to hit record like a noob. It's fine. I'll explain what happened. So basically, I went back to my magic build. I got my new legendary staff to +7 on the refinery table since I had 8 in total. I made a magic-based shield that gives me a lot of magic attack and defense. And I unlocked a lot more magic skills so I could better utilize this whole build. And it was time to run back to the Fafnir and try again. Make it rain, baby. Oh, what? That was the biggest letdown of a skill I've ever seen. I was using all of my magic skills trying to get the most damage possible in on this guy, and nothing was working. After getting obliterated this time and doing no damage, I was down in the dumps, but I knew that something had to change. So day 92, after readjusting my skills and adding a little bit more magic attack to my arsenal, I headed back to the boss rush dungeon to see how much damage I was actually going to do. And to my surprise, I was doing the same base damage as before, but now I was getting an additional 5,000 damage per tick. So I was one step closer to taking down this stupid Fafnir. But the thing is I forgot about the staff buff. So once I activated that plus everything else, I was doing even more damage. Watch me shred this Cyclops. Oh my god, that makes a huge difference. Damn, dude, do you see that damage? Let me quickly explain the buffs for you and how I'm doing this much damage now. So basically, there's 4 buffs that are the most important to this build. Number 1 being Mana Siphon, which gives you 200% bonus damage. Life Siphon gives you 50% magic damage. Fasting gives 150% magic attack, plus magical crit rate of 15%. And then finally, Backwater Formation, which gives 200% magic damage. So if you add all of these together, which yes, they stack, you get 600% bonus damage. Though it didn't help me against this dragon because I died really quick. Oh, no. Used the wrong skill. Though I died, I knew in the back of my mind that I could beat the Fafnir. All I had to do was probably get better enchantments on my armor, and then I could get there. But I had to come up with a game plan, and I didn't want to do that while on the clock and wasting time because I was at the end of this playthrough. So, while I thought about what I was gonna do, I went to go fight another Anubis. You're the god of this world, yet somehow you're the weakest piece of junk I've ever met. God, that's such an easy fight. I kind of feel bad. After defeating Anubis, I learned that you could fall from the sky like Superman, and it's honestly one of my favorite aspects of this game. Hey, I can't pull out my glider. Do not kill me, do not. Oh. Day 97, after going through all of the outfits in the game, I learned that this red smart casual attire was probably the best armor I could do as far as enchantments go. They were the best materials I had to my name. But I only had enough to make one of these outfits, so I just hoped and prayed that I got a good roll with all of the good enchantments. But after further research, I noticed that I had better talons than I had fangs, so I ended up going with the green suit instead. Unfortunately, it wasn't a god roll, but these stats right here matter the most. My crit rate and crit damage were already over 50% because of my other gear and weapons, so adding an extra 7% to both might get me that little bit of extra damage I need to kill the boss. But that's when I forgot that I haven't crafted the wings yet, and the wings can also get enchantments to buff up my damage further. So while I was waiting for the griffin to spawn in this beautiful autumn area, I killed all the enemies around me because I was pissed off for some reason. Hey, Gryffindor, my guy. All right, give me the feathers, give me the feathers. Yeah! God roll, baby, God roll, God roll. Come on, come on. Oh, I got it! If you don't understand by now, basically, I was gonna kick this Fafnir's ass. Day 99, I headed back to the island of Bridge to kill the 3 paladins and resummon the Fafnir. But unfortunately, I died 3 times fighting this guy. For some reason, I just could not figure out his moveset. But during all 3 of those fights, I did learn that I do pump out enough damage now to kill him, so I just have to learn how to dodge his attacks at this point. It's all led up to day 100, my friends. Here we are. It is time for us to go to the island of Bridge for one final time and fight this damn Fafnir. Enjoy the good music, enjoy the good fights, and I'll see you at the end. So close, get there. Why the hell did I just sound like Mario when I won? I don't know, but it's fine. I got there. I finally got there. Oh my god, that took so long. My friends, thank you so much for watching this video until the end with me. This was an amazing journey and an amazing game, and unfortunately, I was gonna do a 200 days, but they just did a game-wide update that completely changed it. So the game doesn't even work this way anymore. It's an open-world game now with one big world like Ark where there's different biomes, but that's not to say I won't play that in the future. If you guys enjoyed this video, please do not forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. I love you all.